Reffing's hard, but it's not that hard. Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Postgame show, live from the Toyota Lounge. Unfortunately, a loser's lounge, and hopefully I can get into a Toyota to drive away from that reffing. Also presented by Bet365. J. Mike and Rudo coming to you. Avs lose to the Minnesota Wild, what ends up being 5-2. I'm mad about a lot of things in this game. I am also not worried about the result, J. Mike.
I think a couple of things are true tonight, and I kind of tweeted about this. This was a game that was frustrating. It was there for the taking. 5-on-5, you feel like you played well enough to win.
Yep.
Blackwood certainly played well enough to win.
Yep.
You had a lot of bad breaks. Sometimes it goes like that. Sometimes you get goal leads. Sometimes you get a couple of unfortunate calls. It stinks. It puts a lot of pressure on you to win down the line, and we'll get into all that, but to me, this feels like one you flush. You went on Saturday. You did what you were supposed to do.
Yeah, agreed. The thing with losses is the next game often defines it much more than itself, unless it's an elimination game, obviously. But there are no elimination games for the Avs in the regular season this year because they're going to make the playoffs. Let's hit the 60-second rundown first, and then we can start getting into the nitty-gritty details. First period, pretty even through these two teams. I think the Avs are probably the better team for the first half of the period. They gave a couple of power plays to Minnesota that were, at least reasonably sort of penalties that they were able to kill. And you get through the first 0-0. Second period, the game kind of splinters into a million pieces. A straight up made up call on Cale Makar cost the Avs the first goal of the game. They get it back off of a beautiful snipe from Marty. And then the parade to the box starts, and we'll talk about this. I don't need to get into it in the 60 seconds, but the Avs take a bunch of penalties that does eventually cost them the 2-1 goal, which would be really the nail in the coffin. The third period, the Avs do push pretty well. They put a lot of shots on, but they're not able to convert. When they get a power play opportunity back, they don't capitalize on it. And then you get into the nonsensical part of the game where Minnesota runs up to score. They do score one after the power play, and then some empty netters. Silliness part of the game at the end.
Let's just vent it out. Let's get it out, and then we'll move on with our lives, and we'll talk about the rest of it.
So, this reffing was bad. There's no two ways around that. However you feel, I think you can be on a spectrum of how bad was it. But the Cale Makar call is unacceptable in the NHL. You cannot live with that. And I know the thing I always get told is reffing is hard. And it is. Reffing is a really difficult job. The NHL is extremely fast. It's hard to see those things in real time. The problem with that excuse is we have the technology to get it right. It would take 5 seconds for someone to watch that replay, call into the arena and say that's not a penalty. And then we're not sitting here with the Avs down 1-0 off of some made up garbage.
It was just so wildly inconsistent tonight. And I'm not someone who likes to be a big harp on the officials guy. Calls are going to go in your favor. The Avs got a ridiculous trip that went in their favor late in the third.
Yep.
Calls are going to go against you. Calls are going to go for you. You got to make plays. You got to find a way to steal one. But when you get to a point when we're talking about 4 or 5 just blown calls in a 10-minute stretch, it's maddening. And on top of it, you give them a 5-on-3, 2 blatant penalties on Minnesota in the midst of that go uncalled. It was just rough. It happens. I get it. It is what it is. But it's unfortunate that what was a really fun game for 25 minutes got completely flipped on its head. I mean, the momentum of the game swung. The Avs obviously being on the second day of a back-to-back, you knew the legs were going to be an issue. That killed whatever legs you had left. It just sucks that this is the conversation when it should be, man, both those goaltenders were incredible tonight, and they were.
Yep. And the things you mentioned there, the two big problems for me are, one, the refs ruined a great game. And Minnesota was playing really good through that stretch of the second period. They may well have broken through and gone on to win this game, and we'd be sitting here going, yeah, Minnesota was just a better team today. Instead, you have one of the worst calls I've seen this year. Probably not the worst, but one of the worst.
In the convo.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound too homer about this, but anyone who watches Cale Makar knows he's not the guy that jumps on the ref's back. When that dude comes to you and is like, brother, take him seriously. He's like, come on. You should know something is up when Cale Makar is that irate about the call you just made.
Probably in the conversation for like top 3 most polite individuals I've ever interviewed.
Yep.
And I've interviewed well over 500 people in the last decade.
And then the other side of it is the consistency, like you mentioned. Look, in a world where you're calling it even, you can talk me into that Landy elbow being a penalty and the Val Nichushkin one being a penalty. I think those are soft calls, but okay, you've established you're calling these betweener penalties.
Yeah.
And then you don't call them on Minnesota. During the 5-on-3, you actively just set this precedent and you don't do it. And it completely destroys the game.
All you can ask for is consistency. And it just felt like it was really erratic tonight. And then by the time you're handing out makeup calls, the game is well in hand, which was almost more salt in the wound at that point. Like now we're just wasting everybody's time. Yeah. But it's unfortunate. It happens. There are going to be games like that. Fortunately, 7-game series aren't typically swung by one night of bad officiating. But I mean, it's one of those that gets under your skin because the game was there for taking. It was really fun. And to Minnesota's credit, they played great tonight.
Yep. Look, Minnesota, no qualms. I'm not saying Minnesota didn't deserve to win. They did. They just got some help. With that being said, and I am upset about it, and I hate it, it is not for lack of opportunity from the Avs. The Avs had their chances to win this game. You don't have to pretend like they didn't. They weren't able to finish efficiently enough. You score 2 goals on 47 shots. That's 4% shooting. Less, really.
Not going to get it done.
Yeah, not good enough.
It wasn't like they were out there coasting, though.
No, the effort was there.
The legs weren't there, especially as the game progressed, and that's to be expected given the schedule. Again, you can whine about it, but it is what it is. You're going to get schedule breaks. You're going to get schedule hurdles that you have to work through. Realistically, coming into this back-to-back, the best you could probably realistically hope for was to split. Yeah. You did that.
Actual results of the game, I'm not worried about at all, frankly.
In terms of win-loss, I'm not big picture, and I'm sure we'll spend a decent portion of the show talking about it. The power play stuff is...
Yeah, I have some issues there.
It's glaring, and the added element of McKinnon coming back and the power play looking actively worse is discouraging. There's no doubts about it. I mean, if there's anything you can look at that could potentially be the pitfall of this team, it's a really easy thing to pinpoint. I just think... I honestly thought they were going to lose this game tonight. I had a patron at the bar ask me before we went live on pregame, are the Avs going to win tonight? My gut feeling was no, because it's just a really tough spot from the schedule. Minnesota in Denver rested. They were playing great hockey going into the break. They're a good team right now.
Yep. What's frustrating about this Avs loss is you got really a quite good game from Mackenzie Blackwood.
He looked awesome.
2
couple
goals,
of bad bounces.
One bounces in off of him. If you want to put that on him, all right, fair enough. The third one goes off Malinsky. Absolutely nothing he can do. 2 of these goals against come on power plays. I really don't know how much better Mackenzie Blackwood could have done in this game. And then the Avalanche, officially the game ends 1-1 at 5-on-5. But the Avalanche were significantly the better team at 5-on-5 across the entire course of this game, except for in the finishing. And hey, guess what? Scoring goals is how you win hockey games. You have to go do that. But I don't think we need to nitpick the Avs overall across the entirety of their game. It's a loss, so we get people coming in the chat that are always like, Bednar's lost the team.
Down.
It's the worst team. No, the Avs actually played quite good for long stretches of this game, especially considering the context of it being a back-to-back against a rested Minnesota team. And this is a travel back-to-back for the Avs. This game was in Colorado, but they had to come here from Utah the night before. It's okay to lose games when the deck is stacked against you sometimes. And I'm not even talking about the reffing. Just the Avs are supposed to lose this game based on the schedule, based on the situation of the teams. And they did. Okay. You'd rather win, but we cannot freak out about the loss too much.
All of the context matters, I think, is what you've got to be able to compartmentalize. Yep. And you can be frustrated about the result. You can be annoyed that a winnable game slipped away. You can be incredibly frustrated with the power play. We all are. But also, if you thought that this was an indication of this team, I don't know, slipping or trending the wrong direction, I don't see how you can look at that effort, given the circumstance, given the factors working against you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you lose.
Every team loses all the time, it turns out. When you lose the ones you're supposed to lose, understand that the loss is not the end of the world. Want to be irate about stuff in this game? Hell yeah. Be irate about the refs. Be irate about the Avs power play. Be irate about the Avs lack of discipline. There's plenty of stuff we're going to get into that I'm still mad about. But also understand the context that it's coming.
Be mad about flipping the puck 15 feet into the crowd.
Yes.
Which ultimately, I can whine about some of those bad calls. And I think you could also argue that ultimately them scoring on that power play is a result of the levee breaking because you had all of the penalties add up. Mm-hmm. But it's the Burns penalty that they ultimately score on. Technically, you can't say with certainty, had that not happened, you're going to kill that 5-on-3 and be fine. We don't know. But you did kill the first two penalties. It was the third one, a really dumb one. Probably happened because you were put in a bad position in the first place. But it's an unacceptable instance. It's not the most veteran player on your team cannot make that play at that series of the game. I mean, it is what ultimately costs you in the end.
To play devil's advocate for 10 seconds, does Brent Burns try a backhand flip out if it's not a 5-on-3 based on a couple of questionable calls?
Almost certainly not, but I feel like he's maybe done it one other time this season, so maybe.
Yeah, and you just can't do that. In that, you cannot put your team in that situation. You're already in trouble on a 5-on-3 for a minute and 10 seconds or whatever it was.
It's where your composure, it's where the most veteran, and again, it's a desperation instance and bad stuff's going to happen when you're playing desperate hockey. But that's where you would hope to see the championship pedigree, the experience of having been in the league for 20 years. And I know he's never won a cup, but of the team.
He's been in cup finals. So.
He's certainly played in plenty of big hockey. That's a moment where you need that guy to make a play, or at the very least, you need to not let him do something that compounds the situation. Yeah, you had two bad calls go against you in a span of 15 seconds, but now you just shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
You're getting shot at. You're behind a wall. You're ducking for life. You're in a terrible spot. It's not shocking it happened, but
I think you nailed it. If you had Jack Ashawn in this game and he makes that mistake, you go, well, inexperienced, under pressure. I get it.
Dang, Ivan.
Right. That cannot come from Brent Burns. It just can't. And you set the Avs up for failure, and they ultimately fail off of that. All the deck stacked against you stuff that I've talked about is still pertinent, but it might be a 1-1 game after that stretch if Brent Burns doesn't make a critical mistake.
Disheartening.
Yeah.
Disheartening from a guy whose basically sole value in this team is to be doing the intangibles. And
it's tough. It's a tough spot to be in. It's again, it almost exclusively comes down to special teams with what I'm mad at about this team. The Avs played very, very good at 5-on-5. You got goalied. Maybe your shot quality is a little bit low at times, and you failed to capitalize on your opportunities. But I can't come away with this game thinking the Avs have major problems. I don't even think the power play is a major problem on this game. I think there is a problem with it, and we'll talk about that after the break.
Power play is a big picture conversation rather than an isolation of this game.
Right. So it's not... This is a game that I'm venting about, but I'm going to turn in my review tonight and go look at roast my rosters and forget about it.
I mean, I think you go back to what we said at the beginning, where it's warranted frustration, valid sentiment from much of the fan base tonight.
Yep.
Let it all out tonight. I'll be your Dr. Phil. It's all right. I do it for thousands of CSU fans yearly. I'm built for this shit. Let's talk it out.
He knows how to lose, right? Look, the Avs, the ones that have, the OGs remember 16-17, all right? It can get a lot worse. We do need to take our first break of the show. Shout out a few of our sponsors. My Dr. Phil tonight. It might be this right here. It might be that stuff. Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. I've got myself an Avalanche Amber here. Delicious. Probably the best amber out there.
Most consistent.
Not to throw shade, but like I used to love Fat Tire, and then they turned it into a blonde.
That's a rant for another day.
Yeah, no kidding.
The FOCO beer scene. What are we doing? You don't mess with the classic.
I'm saying. And that's what Avalanche Amber gives you with Breckenridge Brewery. But of course, they have a flavor for everyone. Dozens of beer for you to try, rotating seasonals. If you like beer at all, Breck Brew has you covered. They also even have hard seltzers if you don't like beer, with good company. So make sure you get out there and try some Breckenridge Brewery products. They're available in all 50 United States. Yeah, even Alaska and Hawaii. You can get them at your local liquor store. If you're looking for it, go online to breckbrew.com and use their Breck Beer Locator online to find it at a liquor store near you. They've been doing it for 33 years, and it all comes down for the love they have for crafting beer. Go check them out. If you're local, you can go down to the Breck Brew Farmhouse and get it there. A fantastic place to grab a beer and just enjoy an afternoon or an evening. Again, breckbrew.com to find them near you.
I love Breck Brew. You love Breck Brew. We all love Breck Brew. We at DNVR, though, we especially love companies that are ingrained within the community. Doesn't matter what they do. And at Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers, they have stood by the community for decades now, just like you have stood by your team through every season, every setback, every comeback, wearing that worn-in jersey, cheering from the same lucky seats, wearing your same smelly shirt when you're on a win streak. It's not just about the team. It's about the family, the legacy, the love of the game. At Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers, we get that kind of loyalty because we've been here for more than 30 years, standing with Colorado families, treating more adults with cancer than anyone else in the state. When life gets tough, we never stop showing up. Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers, the official sponsor of Denver sports fans. Head to RockyMountainCancerCenters.com to learn more.
Cured my mom's cancer twice.
I mean, can't get any better than that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty effective stuff. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Bet365. All right, are we going to talk about the power play now?
I think we have to.
Is that what I'm going to do with my life yet again? Obviously, power play goes 0 for 3. The third one is not meaningful. It doesn't actually matter. The game was over. The first one I actually thought was decent. Second one, bad.
Second was a total revert to the same stuff we'd been whining about.
And I don't think we need to sit here and rehash, Avs power play bad, can't score, has to score. Yeah. What I want to focus in on here is Nathan MacKinnon. And small sample size, one game without him, one game with him. I don't think you can take too much directly from they scored without him, they didn't score with him. I don't think that's the conversation we need to have here. But what we do need to have is go look at what Nathan MacKinnon does on this power play. Multiple instances from him where he has the puck on his stick, he's trying to do too much, it results in a turnover that gets out of the zone, and your power play suffers. You take the one extra one, too, where, yes, it doesn't really matter, but Nathan MacKinnon makes a horrible pass that leads to a turnover that leads to an empty netter. And if the game wasn't over, it certainly was at that point. And small sample sizes, yes, don't read too much into this on a big picture, but some alarm bells should be going off that your power play is worse when you put your best player on it.
And while the sample size is small, post-Olympic break, your struggles are, I mean, it's been pretty consistent now, obviously, over the entirety of the season, even going back to last year. It breaks my brain. I don't understand who a player who is inherently incredibly aggressive in so much of the game just seems to get so cute at times on the power play. And I know he's trying to, pull off the perfect pass, pull off, the perfect play. But I just think the Avs are in a position where you've got to just kind of put your hard hat on and try and get some grimy goals.
And if you're looking to give McKinnon specifically a pass there, I think it's pretty clear he's not fully back to 100%.
No, he's not.
And fine. But I don't know that we've seen such a clear crystal comparison of you put Marty on your half wall. Not only do you score a goal, you have 3 power plays that looked really good against Utah. You put Nathan McKinnon on the half wall and it doesn't look nearly as good. The first one was all right. I felt like they were moving pretty well, but you don't score. And Nathan McKinnon only played half of that power play. The second half of that first power play was the Avs' second unit. You put Nathan McKinnon out there for an extended one on the second power play you get to try and get that crucial goal to tie the game back up. And Nathan McKinnon actively hurts you.
How much of the blame falls on Nate and how much of it falls on the rest of the guys out there waiting for Nate to do something?
It's some of both, of course. Hockey is a team sport. Putting it on one guy ever is never correct, even if we do love to have it was this guy's fault conversation. The lineup felt a little bit weird. They go with Landy on the top unit here, and I just don't feel like it gelled particularly well for whatever reason. Not that Lecky's been great on the power play or Nuke has been great on the power play either. It just feels like there's a little bit of a misfit there that I can't put my finger on. But pretty clearly, the Avs' best offensive player in this game was Marty Necas, and you're moving him out of a position to succeed.
It's just such a tough dynamic when you have to factor in ego and the balance of trying to keep superstars happy, which is a thing. And I know you're going to see comments, and I've seen a couple in the Toyota chat of basically implying that Bednar needs to chew him out, put him in his place, talk down to him or something like that. What I think some people believe is how coaching works in the NHL, which is just not how it's going to work. I do think there have to be honest conversations about how flawed this unit is right now and how different the mentality needs to be. I also think it's not like you can just remove McKinnon from the power play because that's going to have negative consequences.
Right. I agree with that, but you need to understand how to best deploy your team. And of course, Nathan McKinnon wants his minutes. Of course, he wants to be on the power play. But it's Nathan McKinnon. Nathan McKinnon will literally do anything to win. If you go to Nathan McKinnon and say, hey, our best chance to win a Stanley Cup is to move you to a different spot on the power play, I think he'd do it. I really do.
I would hope. I mean, based on everything that I know about his psyche and just having, had the opportunity to interview him and stuff, it would shock me if he wasn't. I'm sure it would be a little bit of, there's a little bit of having to look in the mirror and begrudgingly accept the situation maybe, but I don't think he's the type of selfish, immature player that would actively campaign to be detrimental to the team out of ego,
right. Agreed.
He would do what it takes. When do you pull the cord, I guess, is the tough debate because you can't really go back on it is the thing.
Right. You can't unpull the ripcord, as it were. And again, this is not Nathan McKinnon can never play on the power play conversation. That's not at all. You're taking it wrong if that's what you're getting out of this. It's a understand what the best way the team can execute on the power play is.
How can we shake up their roles to optimize this unit?
You're 12 months into Nathan MacKinnon on the half wall, not solving the problem. So at what point do you just have to do something differently there? And I know some people in chat have talked about it, and it's a fair point also to say you need better from Cale Makar on the power play too.
Put it on net, man.
You don't be the prolific goal scorer that Cale Makar has been in his career and struggle to put it on net the way Cale Makar has this year. And this has been a problem for a while, but what particularly digs in and makes this frustrating is what Cale Makar did at the Olympics. You watched a guy walk into space, put it on net. The game-tying goal in the gold medal game from Cale Makar is disgusting. And when's the last time he's done that for the Avs?
Has he done it this season?
Certainly not on the power play. Yeah. And you know it's in there for Cale, but for whatever reason, it's not happening for the Avs right now. And you watch that first game and they get the Marty goal and you're thinking, all right, cool. These guys should have some confidence. You feel like the power play could go from good places from here. And then you immediately hit the wall of like, not only did you not score, but so many of the same issues cropped up. You can't immediately fall right back into the same trench and keep doing the same things. You have to adapt.
I mean, you know what they say, definition of insanity is just trying to do the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. And it feels like
it's feeling a little insane right now.
Yeah, it's just too consistently trying to get that square peg through the round hole. And it's not working. And while I'm not going to be a doomsday type guy, well, I think a lot of the hypercritical commentary of Bednar after nights like this gets a little bit ridiculous online. Lots of things get ridiculous online. It is what it is there. I will say, though, it is the thing that if this continues to, if 6 weeks from now we're still having this conversation, if it does prove to be what, the Achilles heel that prevents the Avs from achieving what they should this year, which is at very minimum reaching the Stanley Cup, it is going to get
conference
loud.
Finals, but sure.
Fair enough. I mean, your goal is okay. Yeah, if you make the Western Finals, it's not a failure.
You're one of the best
season.
4 teams in the league.
Yes.
Like whatever happens from there. It's
going to get loud though. If the power play specifically is what feels like was the reason this team did not achieve what they have clearly the capability of doing, it's going to get nasty. And that's where there's a lot of pressure on them to figure it out. And they know it. I imagine it's a tense feeling right now in some of these conversations and these film reviews when they're trying to figure this out because they know.
Yeah. As we so often say, we've said it already on this show, multiple things can be true. I don't understand how you can be upset with a head coach in a game where your team put up 47 shots on goal, dominated for large stretches of 5-on-5, and on any given night where their goaltender against you doesn't completely ball out of his mind, you run away with this hockey game. Coach did his job on that aspect of it. But also, if the Avs power play sucks in the playoffs and you lose in the first round, yeah, your coach should absolutely be in the hot seat at that point. We're not there yet, though. You're not going to fire Jared Bednar mid-season in a season where the Avs are the best team in the NHL. Even after tonight's loss, they have a 5-point lead on everybody else in the NHL with games in hand. You would be ridiculed to the end of the earth if you fire your head coach as the best team in any sports league. It would be nonsense.
It happens.
It does, but it's not going to happen. They're not going to fire Jared Bednar this season.
I'm for the record, because I don't want any of this to get misconstrued. In zero ways am I campaigning, advocating, hoping for. I think the Colorado Avalanche have a top 5 coach in hockey at worst.
Yeah, I think Jared Bednar is a great coach too.
It is one of the factors that is going to dictate the conversation for this team. And it's going to be a factor in how they're kind of assessed and graded, because it has been a thing now for the entirety of the season, which again, it breaks my brain. I don't know how a team can be this generational 5-on-5, have this much offensive firepower, this much skill, this much potential for offensive potency and be this flawed on the power play. It's going to give me ulcers.
Now, if you wanted to fire the coach you hired to bring in as your power play coach and has led you to a league worst power play, that I would understand.
I mean, it's a fair... What does the guy do?
Allegedly, a lot of things he's helped with that aren't the power play, but why are you here then? The Avs have other coaches that do the not power play too.
It just feels to me like if you had the worst ranked offense in football and they're like, yeah, but he's really nice to recruits. Okay, but he's the offensive coordinator though, right? And the offense sucks. Like this, he's the power play coach and the power play is atrocious. I
almost feel like that comparison would be like, imagine you had like a fantastic offense, because the Avs have the best 5-on-5 offense in the NHL for the record. And then you had a kicking coach that like you've been through 6 kickers now and they're all still missing every single extra point. And it's like, what are you coaching them to do exactly? Like,
there's for some of the Broncos fans in there, they might feel that sentiment is somewhat accurate with the current football team here in Denver.
I mean,
special teams kind of an issue.
Look, they never should have moved on from Brandon McManus is where I'm at. Now, I think he missed some kicks this playoffs too.
He did, yeah. It's a hard gig.
So it shows how much I know about football. Let's get out of here and shout out a few more of our sponsors before I say something even stupider. One of our sponsors is the Gold Crown Foundation. I actually played basketball when I was a kid in the Gold Crown Foundation, but it's time for the spring sports programs with the Gold Crown Foundation. They run programs in basketball, volleyball, golf, and girls flag football. So tons of different options out there, and they can group any of those sports together. Whatever you want to do, you can get in with them. There's supplemental programs, they're low commitment ones if you want, or there's very high competitive programs as well. So perfect ways to try sports or get your competitive nature on. You can do individual registration. Jesus. Scholarships are available. You can use their QR code on screen right now if you want to sign up. The Girls Flag Football League start April 11th, so you really have only about a little bit more than a month to get there. It's grades 3 through 8, 3 different divisions, again, depending on the level of play you want to get into. And it's just a great league, whatever it is, whether it's the basketball that starts April 2nd, and you have multiple different options for golf tournaments, the volleyball leagues, and more when it comes to Gold Crown. They're a great foundation. Highly recommend if you've never gotten out to their events. It's awesome to play as a kid, and you can have a good time as a parent too. You can learn more and sign up by scanning that QR code or going to goldcrownfoundation.com and get signed up today.
I want to talk to you about the Common Spirit Foundation. Hey, athletes, weekend warriors, anyone who loves to move. For those experiencing any sports injury or chronic pain, the Common Spirit Mountain region is home to an incredible sports medicine program, including their new sports center, the Common Spirit Health Center in Parker. This team of qualified and passionate providers specializes in the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of sports-related injuries for all athletes, including your Denver Broncos players. Their experts understand the unique demands your body faces, so you'll get personalized treatment plans, combining things like PT, injury prevention strategies, and strength training. This isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about preventative care, performance enhancement, and getting you back to the peak condition safely and quickly. It's what it's all about. You don't want to rush the process, but you also want to make sure that you are getting the right type of treatment. Don't let an injury keep you on the bench, or even better, get proactive about your health. For more information, visit mountain.commonspirit.org. Common Spirit Health, the official healthcare partner of the Denver Broncos.
Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Bet365. I am upset. We vented. There's probably more venting coming, but I don't want to let this slip through the cracks. Marty Necas has been awesome in 2 games back from the Olympics. 2 goals tonight. I know the second one isn't very meaningful, but the one he does score that matters, a perfect snipe off of a great play. And for all of my frustration with Nathan MacKinnon, him and Marty Necas were clicking at 5-on-5 for a good portion of this game. It looked really nice, the plays they were putting together. Again, the finishing wasn't really there at times for Colorado, but when you look at that underlying play with those two, there was actually a lot to like at 5-on-5.
Yeah, I mean, the goalie scored on Nate. He drives, creates space for Marty, perfect placement on the shot. That's what really stood out to me in the Olympics, and on top of just the pace and confidence that he played with, was his puck placement on some of these rippers has just been nasty.
He has that in the bag. It's why we were begging him for so long to shoot the puck more, because he can just finish like that. And look, to be a top line NHL player, you have to be a pretty confident guy in general, but you can see it. You can see Marty Necas's confidence is peaking right now. And when he plays with that level of confidence, he's one of the best players in the world. I don't think he's top 5 like a Nathan McKinnon or a Cale Makar, but top 30.
Oh, and he doesn't need to be. And on top of just how much more dangerous are you when you're on the ice, and in the back of the minds of the defense is Nathan McKinnon's out here. Cale Makar is at the blue line. Like, he's fit so well into this system. It took a little bit of while for him to find his footing, to find, the spacing with Nate and everything. They figured that out, at least 5-on-5.
Yeah. And this isn't how the world works. Obviously, you need to be good everywhere. You need to be effective everywhere. But if you sat in a room and said, would you rather be the best team in the world at 5-on-5 or on the power play? I know which one I would choose, and it's 5-on-5. That doesn't mean you can just forget about the power play, but persistent, consistent success is going to come from 5-on-5 play more than it is the power play.
Yeah, I mean, if the Avs would not be in the position they were in if it weren't for their success 5-on-5. It's
no doubt.
It's incredible.
Yep.
And we're not asking for the same from the power play, which is the frustrating element of it all. We're asking for average, even slightly below average at this point. I think I would take. Can it just not be a literal liability? But we wanted to see some of that confidence kind of carry over from the Olympics with Marty. There's no doubt that it has. And I think if he continues to play like this, assuming that the Avs work through some of these wrinkles here, I think it really elevates this team's ceiling, which was already incredibly high.
You're right. And I mean, I don't know how many ways to chop this egg, so maybe we should just let Jared Bednar chop it for us. We do have the coach's audio. I am curious on a couple of thoughts he has, so let's hear from him.
Start with Bailey.
Coach, update on goalkeeping content.
We'll know more tomorrow. He's still kind of getting looked at and figuring out, but we'll see how he presents tomorrow morning. Aaron.
How much of a factor in this game, obviously, were the penalties to you? You had the Cale one that he argued, and then the 3 in a row, just that whole sequence.
Lots. I mean, well, we took 6. 6 is too many, especially against a power play like theirs, right? And I thought the PK did an okay job. We got some big saves from Blackie on the PK, but like 6 penalties is too much. So I think like we had a good first period, 5-on-5, and we were doing some good things. We took some penalties, kind of took our momentum away. And we had a slow start to the second, and then just kind of started getting going, and then took a bunch of penalties and kind of took the momentum away and swung it back in their favor again. So I think like tonight, discipline, penalties had a big factor in the game for me. Colleen.
Do you feel that it was just kind of with that imbalance of like the guys just not having their legs until like maybe that third period?
No, I liked our game in the first period, especially 5-on-5. I thought it was good. I think we got standing around a little bit and had some trouble closing plays out at the beginning of the second, and that lasted too long for me. Like it was 8 to 10 minutes, and then I felt like we kind of started getting going, and then that's when we took the 3 penalties in a row. So it's hard to get out of your zone. You're spending a lot of time defending, but I would say there's lots of that game that I liked and some things we did that I liked, and then there's also we gave up some sloppy scoring chances against, again, there were high quality scoring chances like throughout the course of the game. And we had a good push in the third and had some chances to tie the game, but we gotta put a few of those in the back of the net.
Jesse, then Corey. McKenzie's struggled a little bit coming off of long layoffs at times this season, but that was a really strong performance. Just your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I thought he was okay. I thought he did a nice job. Like I said, we gave up some high danger chances. Remind me a lot of the Utah games. So like, there's some things that we have to clean up there for sure on the defending side of it. Some of it was puck management. Like I think like their 3 or 4 scoring chances in the first period came from either individuals getting beat one-on-one or turning the puck over that led to some high quality chances. So trying to do a little bit too much under pressure in some of those situations, and I think that's just a little bit of rust. And I can say last night Utah was no different. Tonight even many at times was probably the same, so it's something that'll come for everybody, I think.
Corey?
I mean, that's obviously a 4-point game, and you win that one, and there's a big gap between you and Minnesota. You don't, and you feel like, I mean, I know you guys have been saying all along that Minnesota and Dallas are great, but does it feel like after tonight, like, okay, now it's like there's a race for the first spot?
I think we've felt like there's a race for the first spot since the opening night puck drop. That's just kind of the way it is. Like no one, again, like no one cares what kind of start you have, what kind, how big of a lead you have. No one feels sorry for you if you get injuries. No one feels sorry for you if you don't play well. It's the standings at the end of the year is what matters, right? So that was a missed opportunity. That's what that was. 9 points. If we win 2 games in hand, that's a long road to try and catch you. And now it's tight, 5 with 2 in hand, and there's lots of hockey to be played. We just got to take care of our business.
Right. How would you assess Landy's performance in the last couple of games at the top in the top line? And do you prefer him in that spot or Lucky?
I prefer him there right now. That's why he's there, and I think he's been pretty good. That line had a great night last night in Utah. Scored 2 goals, had 1 disallowed. They were all over the puck and creating dangerous chances, and we're good on the defensive side of it too. Centers move around tonight, but that line did some good things again tonight too. Yeah.
Last 2, Jonathan, Megan.
You kind of alluded to it, but with Minnesota, can you use it as part of your message that against a team like that, top contender, you got to be tired?
Well, I mean, there's no excuses in this league. Like they're playing back to back tomorrow, right? They're going to Utah, I think, if I read the schedule right. So it's, I mean, that's a game that you really want to have, and I don't think but I think you have to expect to play your best hockey game in order to beat a team like Mini, Dallas, amongst others. And I didn't think we were at our best tonight. Again, there were some things I liked, but probably too much I didn't like, and one of them was the discipline and the penalties we took.
Finish with Megan.
When you look at the shots battle and the overall quality of the chances, it's not as if your team didn't do anything to create their offensive opportunities tonight. Yeah. There have been a couple of games like this, too, process-wise. They're doing all the right things. Do you credit goaltending in that situation, or is there something about how they're creating that you'd like to see differently?
Some of it's just finding a rhythm. So we did some good things like getting some point shots through, getting to the interior of the ice. We had some good rush chances. I'd like to see us get to the interior and create a few more low slot, mid slot chances, like his own play. Like it's not like we didn't have any looks in there. I think we created enough chances to win the hockey game. I think we got to be better. Like, I mean, you look at it, we give up the 5-on-3 goal, and that's the difference in the hockey game for me. We have a chance 6-on-4. We get Nelson's one-timer that he squeezes. We get Cale walking down the middle of the ice twice. When we score one of those, it's a tie game. We didn't, so we haven't had an easy time capitalizing on some of our chances and our looks that we probably created in the last month, which I like to see that turn around a little bit. So to me, it's repetition. It's, you just got to keep creating those looks, and you got to make sure that you're burying a few of them when you get the opportunities.
Thanks, sir.
Look, I think Bedsy is pretty honest about it. I don't know how you're allowed to feel how you want to feel, I guess I should say, when it comes to the standings. the Avs are still very much in the driver's seat and still very much control their own destiny. Now, they can't go and lose the rest of the games to Minnesota this year that they play, but you can't fault them for something they haven't done yet.
It puts more pressure on that next game in Minnesota, which is something we talked about. If you didn't win this one, it puts a lot more pressure on you to pull out the next one.
Yep. Facts. And if the Avs go out and pull that one,
you're right back in the same position you were in tonight.
Exactly. We do go from Bednar recorded interview to live from Ball Arena with the courtesy call. Bailey Curtis calling in on the Xfinity mobile call-in line. Bailey, I'm going to leave the first question open-ended to you on this one. What was the worst part of the Avs game?
Penalties.
Okay.
For sure. It is absolutely the undisciplined work that we saw from the Avalanche here tonight. And I hate going from a game yesterday where I'm like, I'm not really worried about this. Like it's their first back. Like I can deal with that, to maybe this is a problem. And it's going back on my words, but when your penalty kill can't be efficient, you can't afford to take penalties that way. And it's something the Avalanche have really prided themselves on, being a top 3 penalty kill in the league. And I don't think it's something that started to fall even before the Olympic break. So I don't know as though this is just they're 2 games in from the Olympic break, give them some time. Like it's become more and more of an issue. So it's that undisciplined nature. I also don't want to give too much, attention to the poor officiating tonight, but
we did plenty of that.
Yeah, we had it handled.
But that Cale Makar call really changed the tide of things.
Yep.
Like that's where things started to fall apart, and that's the biggest negative to come out of this one, because otherwise you look at the first period, you look at most of the third period, and the Avs had this one handled.
I agree. Yeah.
You've been through it the last 36 hours, so I don't want us to have to fixate too much on the power play. You've gone through enough. I don't want to put you through that.
I appreciate you more than you know.
But I am curious, just from a process standpoint, like where are we at in terms of watching this developing narrative? Because Nate doesn't play last night. Power play looks pretty good. Marty scores. Power play looks actively worse tonight. It's too small of a sample size, but just, I don't know. What do you think about the process tonight?
What else is there to say that hasn't already been said is kind of where I'm at with it. What I thought was interesting in looking at tonight too, because you hear Bednar talk about, okay, that's kind of Mac's spot that, Netjes finds some success in last night. Yeah. And you see him today, they're constantly switching on the power play. They're constantly kind of finding each other's spots. Netjes tries to creep over there a couple times too. Like you see, I think there's a little bit of recognition that there's something that works there, and he feels a little more comfortable there. Other than splitting them up on the power play to potentially give Netjes some more of an opportunity in that spot, I really don't know what else there is to do. I am kind of at a loss here, and it comes down to, at the end of the day, stubbornness. Again, Bednar's comments from last night, seeing how they go to try to fix things and then revert. It comes down to the definition of insanity, being stubborn, whatever you want to call it. Like that's really all this is. Whether it's Mac's spot or not, it's not working. Something is not working. Something needs to be done. And when I see Netjes looking as comfortable as he does there, I'm mentally yelling and screaming, saying, give this more of a chance. Give this more of an opportunity. What is the point in not doing so? How much worse can it get?
Well said.
Can the Avs allow themselves to be okay with this game? Because yes, you have the discipline problems. Yes, you have the failure to score on the power play. You're also looking at a game in which you put up 47 shots. You were arguably the better team at 5-on-5. sure, there's things that you need to fix, but are you really that upset about the game, at least the underlying play in this one, if you're Colorado?
Not at all. I loved what Bednar said in the presser, calling this a missed opportunity. Like
Yeah.
that's exactly what this game was. Because I mean, we all have similar views when it comes to back-to-backs. Like you get the first 2 points, the second two are just kind of bonus at that point. And I really expected a more tired version of the Avs coming into this one. But I'm looking at most of the first period, and I'm like, this is watching them keep up with Minnesota, who this is their first game back from the Olympic break. This is their first game of a back-to-back. Like that's insane to me to see how well they're keeping up. And looking at some of those underlying possession numbers, it I think makes me even more mad looking at the outcome of this game. And the Avs kind of dug that hole for themselves. Obviously, you know, officiating opinions and everything kind of comes into that. But at the end of the day, that undisciplined play kind of bit them in the you-know-what, and they weren't able to capitalize. Finishing can be an issue. Like whatever you want to blame it on. Like those underlying numbers really, Bednar was pleased with them, and why shouldn't he be?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, as a team, you win as a team, you lose as a team, but do the Avs need to do something to continue getting this version of Marty Necas? Because it feels like the way he played at the Olympics and now 2 games back, if this is the guy you get in the playoffs, yeah, Marty's going to take you far.
Oh gosh, I'm so excited if this is sustainable work for a guy like Martin Necas. And I hate this answer, but you can't have an Olympics every year. You can't, like, that's unfortunately, when looking at this Olympics, I think it was a huge ego boost. As we've kind of talked about, he was not projected to be the best guy on that roster, and he took that in stride.
Yep.
And that does work for a player's ego. Like that's, I think, a huge part in a lot of what we're seeing from Martin Necas is he knows he had fantastic players on his lines with Team Czechia in the Olympics. He's also got a great player in Nathan McKinnon playing with him every single night. So that it does a world of good for his confidence when he knows he doesn't have to be the passenger on that line. He doesn't have to just be the guy passing the puck all the time. He can be the guy ripping pucks from faceoff dots and proximity and anywhere on the ice, and he can go and score. That is huge. So if he can keep that up, my biggest worry here, again, he's always been a streaky player in throughout his entire career. So the big part of that is making sure that confidence can keep steady through the next stretch of games. That's going to be the biggest part for Martin Necas.
Sustainability of it all.
Yep. Only other question I had, and I'm phrasing this maybe intentionally flagrantly. Did Mackenzie Blackwood deserve better in this game?
Absolutely. 100%. A lot of those, I mean, you look, 2 empty netters, 2 weird deflections off of skates. There's really nothing he can do about that. I'm sitting here through the entire game, and he's making these unbelievable stops. And what can you do in that situation? Mackenzie Blackwood is tracking the puck well, doing everything he needs to do to succeed and help you succeed in this game. Weird bounces and other things. Like I can't really fault him for a game like this. It sucks that the finishing couldn't come on the other side of the ice for Colorado. That's really what bit them. And you can't expect your goaltender to win you a game all the time, especially when you're only scoring 1 goal a night. That's not going to cut it ever.
Yeah.
You've been in the building the last 2 nights. I'm just curious, how did you feel like Landeskog looked in his first 2 games back? Obviously took a penalty both nights. Tonight's felt a little ticky-tacky to me. Last night he just straight up tackled a dude. Can't argue that one. But what have you seen out of Landy as someone who's been in the building for all of these minutes?
I think he's looked fine. As far as his role on the team goes, he's doing what he needs to do. He's being that kind of, gritty presence, not afraid to stand up for his teammates kind of player. So to that effect, I think it's been the same old Landy we're used to watching. But I also think he's kind of getting caught in the hole that a lot of other players on the team are, and maybe being a little too whimsy with his stick or a little too undisciplined in the way he's moving around on the ice. And that's as much as I do say like the undisciplined nature of things right now for the Avs is a problem. Like it's something they'll fix. I have no doubt about that. That's just my biggest problem with him right now. And if that's the biggest problem I'm getting out of Gabe Landeskog, cool, fine. Like I'm perfectly okay with that.
Fair enough. I don't know how much more I can rant about this game, Bailey. So final thoughts on this one.
You get through the first back-to-back, you get a break. Biggest thing, I'm just happy the Avs have a day off coming up here. Get an early one out of the way, and then you go back to work. So take the break while you got it. There's not many of them left. That is my final thoughts.
The madness definitely does not stop. Bailey, we'll let you go. That has been Bailey Curtis on the Xfinity Mobile call-in line for the courtesy call. We have a little bit more to talk about here. I wanted to just run through the numbers here. The reason I feel so good about 5-on-5 for the Avalanche in this game, Corsi, 65-37 in the Avs' favor. Actual shots, 37-20 in the Avs' favor. Scoring chances, 29-18 in the Avs' favor. High dangers, 13-8 in the Avs' favor. The Avs thoroughly outplayed Minnesota at 5-on-5. They really, really did. And yeah, do they need to finish better? Absolutely. Most nights when you give that performance, you're going to score more than one real goal. The other one was technically 6-on-5 anyway. And point being, there is a lot of good hockey in here from Colorado, despite the obvious issues and what ends up coming up short for them. And that's why I don't want the Avs to fall into the abyss. Us fans, we can fall off the cliff all we want and freak out and rage and call for everybody to be fired. But the Avs need to keep it even keel and understand that while they are an imperfect hockey team, they are still very, very, very good.
I think the ironic thing in all of it is looking at the schedule rationally, you likely were supposed to lose tonight. And that's why this is so annoying, was because you had a chance to win a game that was a tough one to pull out. You're in a tough spot. It would, you win this one, the room you're able to establish between you and Minnesota and the division at that point, you're feeling phenomenal. Yep. You still feel really good about the position that you're in. You did what you were supposed to. This is one you leave in the rear view. If you win at home on Saturday, you're feeling great. You've got winnable games, albeit on the road, and I think you got another back-to-back next week. But it's fine. This is one you leave in the rear view, and you get back to playing Avalanche hockey.
Other than the discipline, the reffing, the special teams, do you even need to get back to playing Avalanche hockey? I think there was a pretty good amount of Avalanche hockey in this game.
You got to finish better.
That's totally fair. You do need to actually score goals. I have no argument against that.
But yeah, this from a process standpoint, this isn't one where I think you look at it and say, man, they played awful. You were in it. You had it. Slipped away from you. You took some bad penalties. Some of them were ticky-tacky. Some of them were made up.
Yep.
But it is what it is. It's part of the game. You're going to get some bad breaks. You're going to get calls that go in your favor.
You got to play through them. Unfortunately, the Avs aren't able to overcome that, along with all the other things you were talking about.
I will say, man, get the licks in while you can, Wild fans.
Yep.
Enjoy your night.
Look, if you want to play us in the playoffs, I'm down. I'll take that 7-game series today. I'm down to run that back. Also,
state of hockey, huh?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just being a dick now. It's fine.
It's cool. So are they in the chat.
So. I'll congrats. You got me. You got under my skin.
You're also helping pay our bills. So W for us. One other negative I wanted to talk about that isn't necessarily the hockey, but Yoel Kiviranta leaves the game, crashes into the boards, and it goes right down the tunnel. Bednar mentioned it. the usual will be evaluated tomorrow. We'll see. But Kivi Ranta, obviously a depth guy, the Avs aren't hitting any panic buttons if he's hurt, but
went down hard. Hope he's all right.
You just don't want to see one of the big positives of this break for the Avs was you get back, pretty much everybody's healthy.
Get right, yeah.
And you can go forward into the home stretch with as much of your roster as you could reasonably expect. You really don't want to see those injuries start stacking up again. So hope Kivi's okay and that it's nothing serious at very least.
He can go to bed, put his bronze medal on. That'll soothe it a little bit.
Yeah, I would also be soothed by a bronze medal, but I'll never have one of those, so it's fine. Gotta suffer through my pain with Advil like a normal person. Look, Colorado, I would love to tell you, hey, the schedule gets easier, but it doesn't. You do get a day off, but then you have to go right back at it, and then you play a 3-4 with Chicago, LA, and Anaheim, including travel in there. Yeah, LA, Anaheim's an easy back-to-back, but going from Chicago straight to LA is not a short trip. And then after that, lots of big games. The Dallas game is on the 6th, and that's the trade deadline. You have those multiple other games against Dallas and Minnesota in March too. It's going to be a slug for the next 50 days or whatever it is that are left in the season. You have to be able to bounce back when things don't go your way. So I do think, yes, we talked about it adding more importance to the next Minnesota games and Dallas games. It adds more importance to the very next game against Chicago too.
You got to have a response here. I mean, now is when if you let things compound, you could pay for it a month from now.
For sure.
Or you could be sitting pretty with the division, locked up, looking forward to the playoffs, which based on the first 4 months of this season, you have put yourself in position to do.
Yep.
This team is still really good.
They're the best team in the league until they're not, right? They're at the top. The onus is on Minnesota to go catch them. And did Minnesota make a step in that direction today? Absolutely. But the first step of the journey doesn't get you to the finish line. And Colorado, again, I want to be realistic about this. Colorado has multiple games in hand. Minnesota has 5 points they need to make up, even if Colorado loses both of those games. Colorado doesn't have to play the best hockey in the world to hold on to their spot. They can play, honestly, there's a decent chance if they play .550 hockey for the rest of the year, they win the division. If they play 600 and above hockey, it's virtually impossible for Minnesota to catch them. So
step on their throats anyways.
That would be nice. I would much rather have the last 10 games of the season be the Avs get to take it off and no one cares. But if they have to scrap it out, you have to scrap it out. Again, venting on this show, totally. I've been doing it for half the show. Totally justified. But don't blame the Avs for things they haven't done yet. Want to blame them for losing this game? Awesome. They haven't lost the top spot in the NHL yet.
Still sitting pretty. Still in a great position to achieve everything that you would have hoped for.
Yep. It feels bad in the moment. It'll feel good when they beat Chicago. If they beat Chicago, another team that plays them hard, feels like the Avs
weirdly scrappy games every time they play.
Yeah. So we'll see. I wish Gustafsson could have played this well in the Olympics. Landy could
have been a lot more entertaining for Sweden.
Yeah. But, maybe Gustafsson just hates Landy that much. He'd rather not get a medal at the Olympics to spite him. I don't know. I saw way early in chat, you don't have to scroll up to find the comment, but I actually didn't mind the Avs level of physicality in this game.
I feel like it dipped, but also when you take 3 penalties in 90 seconds, that's kind of natural.
I mean, right off the rip, Manson hits a guy. Landy was willing to mix it up repeatedly. Colton was getting under guys' skins. It's just hard to consistently do that when you don't know what they're going to call and what they're not.
It was a really annoying game.
that is the perfect sentence to end this podcast. We're going to call it there. Tomorrow, roast my rosters. If you haven't got it in yet, get it in. I'm doing them tonight. So if you want to potentially be featured on that show, go to Puckpedia, use their GM tools, put DNVR in the title of your roster, make the trades you want to see the Avs make or otherwise. That's it. It's late. We're getting out of here. This has been the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.